Okay, welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classic Less Known Classic. This is episode number 1463 and Doubleshot number 1357. This one is one of those unique ones where it's digital, but it's mixed in with like excuse me, some individual issues and an actual trade paperback. First off, what's up with some individual issues, then we'll go back to more individual issues. Okay, first up, it is the six-parter. This is from Iron Man Volume 4. Yes, Volume 4. The volume that started back in 2005. This is basically the six-parter Execute program. Yeah, here's the cover for issue 1. Yeah, it's a six-parter. That kind of, in a way, is one of those mini preludes into Civil War 1. Where Iron Man is acting a bit out of character, like having him fight some guy in an armored suit, stop his heart, and then restart it. He basically does similar stuff to this throughout this whole storyline, and then halfway through the storyline, because he's so out of control, the government sends a sentry after him. Yes, they send a sentry after him to fight him for the last few issues, and then of course the thing ends with oh, let's have, because we have gun control. We register our guns. Why not register our superheroes as well? Yeah, planting seeds for Civil War 1. Yes, of course, we have a guest appearance here by the Avengers. Well, this, of course, is just after the events of the first arc of New Avengers Breakout. Yeah, this is not long after it. I would probably say this is presumably not long after, I would say setting-wise. It could be just after when, and this is my personal theory, when the Sentry joined the Avengers. Yeah, and this comes from the fourth volume for this series. Yeah. Now, if you're curious to have I reviewed the arc that came right after this one, the answer is yes. Yes, I have. Yeah, and I'll also be discussing the last few issues of this volume. This, of course, is coming from, yes, Volume 3. The cover art here is done by Adi Grudoff. It's not listed in the comic. I'd look up online, basically. This guy's actually a pretty good cover artist. Yeah, aside from working on... He pretty much worked on the first 14 issues of this volume, and he also worked on issues 75-83 of Iron Man. He also did Fantastic Four. He did the first 8 issues of She-Hulk, the covers for the host, the variant cover issue 5. Thor, Son of Asgard, New Avengers 24. It's the first line for it. He did interior for basically the first story came before this one. So yeah, he pretty much worked on the covers for up until when they actually renamed the title before they renewed to Iron Man Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yep. Yeah. This is a okay story. I like the artwork here. It's done by Patrick Zurcher. Let me show you some artwork by the guy. Yeah, I like Patrick Zurcher's artwork. His artwork is okay for Iron Man, but yeah, that's what I think is the best thing about this particular set of issues is the artwork by Patrick Zurcher. Yep. What ranking do I give this particular story arc? I give it roughly I'm gonna give it an 8.5. It feels like a bit of a step down from what basically we saw before with Iron Man. Yep. Now, moving on to an actual trade paperback. Yes, this is Iron Man, the Director of S.H.I.E.L.D., the complete collection. Yeah, this takes up issues 15 to 32 and the annual. The best way to describe this era is, what if Tony Stark was Nick Fury? Yep. Because the way I read these issues, it seems as though they're kind of they're basically stories that could have been from Nick Fury if they had an ongoing series at this point. Just give it to Iron Man because he's Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, each story arc in here, there's several different writers on here. Yeah, that's something I thought was quite weird about this volume of Iron Man. They couldn't keep a stable writer on the book. Nope, just as soon as it could be a story arc, writer leaves. Yep, like, here's one for example for you. 15 to 18 for this volume for Iron Man. Are done by Daniel and Charles Cornuff and artwork by Roberto da la Torre. That's who does the cover. That's who does the interior artwork for this one. 1920 is the World War Hulk tie-in, which lasts for 2 issues. I'll discuss that. Regime Change, done by Crystal Gage, and artwork by Harvey Tello. Daniel and Charles Carnoff does return for issues 21-28. Hunted. The final few issues are done by Stuart Moore, with artwork by Carlos Bagalin, Robert Della Torre, and Steve Korth. Excuse me. The initiative is simply put basically what Iron Man was up to immediately after the events of Civil War 1. Basically, it's just kind of like his first day in the job as director of S.H.I.E.L.D. And, of course, deals with more threats. And the big thing with the story arc is that we have Dum Dum Dugan resigning from S.H.I.E.L.D. Yep, he steps down from S.H.I.E.L.D. because he doesn't like how Iron Man does things. He first basically thinks that when Nick Fury was in charge, not in the case of Iron Man, so he leaves. But basically, some stuff basically that happened in this story arc here will lead into the story arc Hunted. Because 1920 is the World War Hulk tie-in. The first issue is just an expansion upon what happened in issue 1 for World War Hulk. That's the best way to describe this issue. Yeah, because mostly put, this issue does take place during that particular issue. Yeah, let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, it takes place concurrently issue 1, yep. Issue 2, which is the second to last issue, takes place during this two-parter. Yeah, this takes place... Oh yeah, and they also... It's also... Yeah, I should point out, though, that the Dum Dugan appearance issues is a Skrull. Yep, he's a Skrull. Yeah, part of Retcon reveal. Oh yeah, the one who show up in Iron Man throughout these issues. Yeah, that's all freaking Skrull. Yes, the annual. If you're curious about that, that is something else altogether. Yeah, the annual itself is basically give you a one-shot team who appears only in the set, only appears in this particular story arc. I'm trying to see if I can find it here. Because the thing with this annual is that there was an annual published for quite some time after this one. No, not really. Like, because this came out in like 2007. The next one to come out is about 3 years later. Yeah, let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, apparently also with the final few issues with Iron Hands, the title becomes officially Iron Man Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm trying to find the annual. That this flame had. Here it is, finally. Yeah, the annual itself, which is the cover for the trade. We have a one-shot character appears in this issue. Robert Hang, he's just a undercover operative. Yep. And this is on a Crystal's Gauge, and this was the only volume this one published. At the time when this annual came out, this was released in January 2008, that was roughly 7 years after, yes, after the last annual came out. The next annual is going to come out for 3 years. Yep. At least Iron Man was still sporadically releasing annuals, like they released one in 2011, 2013. Excuse me. I think next one after that was not released for quite a while, actually. I think like the next one officially was not released until just recently. Yep. Now, Hunted deals with basically stuff that would kind of in a way lay the groundwork for Dark Reign. Because Norman Osborn's in this storyline. Yep, he's here. And we have, like, investigating this particular terrorist who attacked the initiative. Iron Man's defending his actions. Of course, the Commission who's in here. I should point out something about the Commission. This is the Commission of Superhuman Activities. They've been around since the 1980s. They're a Mark Greenwald creation. Yeah, they first showed up in. I know they popped up an issue for Iron Man. I know that for sure. It was a. I think it was. Let's see if I can find it here. I'm trying to find it here. Sorry about this. Just trying to find the let's see, where are you? Here it is. The Commission for Superhuman Activity, the C.S.A. Okay, I thought they were Mark Greenwald creation. My apologies about that. It's actually first appearance in the Candy X-Men 199. So it's a Chris Claremont creation. Mostly put, this group is mostly associated with Iron Man. Not Iron Man. It's mostly associated with Captain America. But the Commission of Super Activities apparently made a debut in this very issue. Apparently. It's kind of weird. Yeah, this apparently is considered to be the first appearance of the Commission of Super Activities. So, yeah, one of the things they were technically involved with was Freedom Force and a lot of the time Captain America. Yeah, they, like, in book, they're not very popular. They're basically a bunch of pencil necks. Yeah, let's input what they are. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to find it here. It's like. Yeah. Yeah, they're mostly just a foil for Captain America, but they occasionally pop up. They're usually led by Valerie Cooper a lot of the time. Though at some points they're headed by Henry Peter Gyrick. But in book, basically, they're not a very popular concept. Mostly, you can best describe it as basically kind of similar to Z commissions nowadays. Basically, a group of politicians basically trying to enforce their will on superheroes. That's kind of the best way to describe the Commission of Superhero Activities. Though for some reason they had Norman Osborn part of this group, which makes no frickin' sense at all. Given the fact that made us frickin' insane. Yeah, apparently because the fact he actually is like insane, and yet for some reason they have him part of the group, which makes absolutely no frickin' sense at all. Nope. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mostly put, they become a recurring threat for, like I said, for Captain America during Mark Greenwald's era. because they're basically, like I said, a bunch of, let's just say, politicians a lot of the time. Yeah, they're not exactly very trustworthy for among superheroes. If you're curious though, have they have had actual superheroes become part of the C.S.A.? Well, they had they had the Beat at one point in the group. Yes, mostly put it's civilians. Yes, they never had the only costume character who has technically become part of the group is the Beetle. He is technically the only one who actually ever has done this. Yeah, as far as I can tell, there has been no other character that has ever done this. Mm-hmm. Yes. He is by far the only one. Yeah, the Four Beetle, aka Mach 10. That's what he called himself in his last appearance. Yeah. With Iron Hands, basically, is kind of the beginning and the end of this particular era. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's basically kind of in the way Iron Man enforcing his will on S.H.I.E.L.D. itself. Yeah, also take on the character Graviton for the last two issues. Yep. Yeah, he also at one point puts on one of his old. Yeah, this, if you're an Iron Man fan, you would love this storyline purely based upon what armors he wears in the story. And like, look, he wears, I believe that's Mark IV, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. That's not the only armor he wears in this story arc. Oh no. At one point, he puts on the Silver Centaurian armor. Yes. Yes, he does. And he does this to take out freaking Graviton. Now, as far as I can tell, this story arc is the first and only time since the 80s he actually puts on this attire. Because look, here's the Silver Centaurian armor. Yeah, if you're a fan of Iron Man from the 1980s when, like, Dave Michelini, Bob Layton were the people behind the book, or mostly Dave Michelini. Let's see, this is issue number 28. Let's see here. Yeah, it's covered part with a Silver Centaurian armor. Made its first appearance back in Iron Man 200. It's a creation of Denny O'Neil and Mark Bright. Yep. Now, the armor itself has occasionally appeared since then. Yes, it has. Its most recent appearance, I could think it was actually in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series. Yeah, that's the most notorious recent appearance by this armor. Yeah, where, get this, it was actually worn by Garrett. It was, oh yeah, the character appeared from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He put on this costume put on this outfit for like the opening story arc. Yep. He does that, of course he does it just for this hunted story arc. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and by the way, Maya Hansen is a supporting character in all this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's a supporting character in all this. Iron Man clarifies his action by taking out Graviton, and that's how you end the story arc there. Mm-hmm. With Iron Hands, you apparently have like a whole Iron Legion. Yeah, it's only just for this one story arc. But it's just basically Iron Man just, well, dealing with other threats related to him being director of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's mostly what the last two issues are about. When it comes to Iron Man, he just basically deals with international threats. Of course, he has help from the Iron Legion, his group of basically S.H.I.E.L.D. agents in Iron Man armor. Nothing supernatural. It's always basically typical Iron Man stuff here. I've got some appearance about the Paladin here. And, well, that's mostly what he does. Just basically does normal Iron Man stuff. He doesn't fight any of his villains, aside from Graviton. Like, the one thing about this era for Iron Man, he doesn't fight any of his villains. No. Like, I've read this whole run, and not once does he fight any of his classic villains. Nope, not really. Yeah, I love the fact even in the back of the trade they actually have like the mini armors of Iron Man. We actually have his original gray armor, the one he's worn back in the 60s. We have the space armor, designed by Bob Layton. We have the Mark Wright armor. Well, they say designed by Bob Layton, even though the Mark Wright was the one who created this armor. Yeah, we had the various different armors, including the most recent armor of the series. Yep. But yeah, the Iron Man Directive Shield is actually pretty good. It's not terrible per se. It's just that, well, um, and this becomes kind of weird though, because at the same time, like basically right after this issue, we had Invincible Iron Man by Matt Fraction come out right after that, because Secret Invasion apparently the reason why is because the Iron Man title was taken over by War Machine for the last few issues of the run. This, of course, is by Crystal Gage. Artwork by Sean Chun, who actually has done some Iron Man work before. Now, here's a fun factoid when it comes to these 3 issues. Originally, when I went to 500 back in 2011, these 3 issues were not counted as part of numbering. Nope, they decided not to count these issues. But then as late for 600, they did. Yep, they did. 6 years after the release of 500. Apparently for 600, like, okay, these 3 issues are apparently part of numbering, despite the fact it doesn't star Iron Man. Yeah, and here's the thing about these 3 issues, 33 and 35. These are Secret Invasion tie-in. Yep, it's similar to what James Rose was up to during Secret Invasion. Yep. Though, on the cover, you're probably thinking, is that the armor he's going to use for this story arc? No, not really. His armor looks completely different. Yeah. Like, this apparently right here, that's what his armor looks like. So the cover lied on what armor it looks like. And this is quite strange. Okay, underneath the helmet, he goes to like a satellite, which basically is kind of like his own War Machine armor. It's a satellite. He uses it as sort of his base for the story arc. And this is his face under the helmet. Yeah. Apparently, at some point, this happened to him. I don't remember when this happened to him, but... Yeah, so... By the way, is Tony in the story arc? Yes, but he's a supporting character in his own book. Yep. So basically, I have Rhodey in his satellite armor fighting Skrulls, which is awesome. Yeah, he does it in frickin' space. Also, there's a hint of the Return of Force Works in this particular story arc. Yeah, there's a hint of Return of Force Works. Doesn't go anywhere. Nope, because the initiative itself is taken over by Norman Osborn right after this is done and over with. Of course, this specific previous issue referred to as Iron Man Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is referred to as War Machine Weapon of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yep. And well, you have Rhodey act like a freaking badass, and then he just X's his own satellite armor to do more damage to the Skrulls. Of course, he teams up with. I'm trying to look at this woman's name here. Let's see if I can find her name. Because I think she's an old friend of his. Oh yeah, it's Cybermacer. Yep, Cybermacer. Yep, she's a character from ForceWorks. Yep. Yeah, but she's not wearing her outfit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she kind of becomes like, after this three-parter is over, she becomes a supporting character in the War Machine title. Yep, appearing a good chunk of the series. And even appearing in like one issue of Iron Man, 2.0, appearing in, appears in like almost the entire series Iron Man 2.0, and appears in a few issues of Silver Surfer. When Greg Pak wrote the book. Yep, they had her guest star in the Silver Surfer book for pretty much the Silver Surfer book. Yep. Yeah, she's a character that didn't really appear very much. No, and prior to this three-parter, her last appearance was back in the final issue of ForceWorks, released back in 1990, I think it was 96, if I'm not mistaken, right? It was released in, 96. That was when the last issue was released. Yep. So her first appearance at this point, first time in 12 years, and here she's helping out War Machine, her old teammate. Of course, they battle alongside the Winter Guard, which is so awesome. Yeah, this three-part is amazing. And it is something, though, that this will later lead to a spin-off book for War Machine that came right after this one. Done by Crystal, well, not done by Crystal's Gage per se, Greg Pak wrote the book. Yeah, Greg Pak wrote it. And we take out the armor, he looks like this, where apparently most of his body is replaced with cybernetics. Yeah, and that becomes a plot thread throughout the War Machine book, and it eventually puts back his armor on, beats the Skrulls up, and, well, saves the day as War Machine. And then, of course, the thing ends with Rhodey's story continues next month in War Machine #1. Basically, the first issue of the second volume of War Machine, and Cybermacer comes on as a supporting character in the book, and appearing in this book and Armor 2.0. The problem with both these two books were they lasted for 12 issues before Ultimate getting cancelled, presumably due to low sales. Sorry about that. Now, in the case of these three particular issues, I give these ones roughly a 9.5 out of 10. Excellent issues, and I'm sure from Edgar, I'm sure he loves these issues. I thought these issues were freaking awesome. Like, I would probably say of all the story arcs basically done for Iron Man after Extremis, the Execute Program one is pretty decent for what it is. Though it's built up to a very unpopular crossover. The 13-14, I've already talked about those issues. Initiative I thought was pretty good. With Iron Hands and the Hunted, that was pretty good story arcs. I would say in the case of Hunted, that felt like basically the writer is basically paying tribute, doing a, sort of a minor love letter to Iron Man by having to store a bunch of armors. The annual, which is basically just what was going on in the book, but it's good the fact the book produced an annual. Of course, at that point, like I said, first one released in 7 years. Yep. Well, overall, really good book, and in the case of my final thoughts overall for Iron Man Volume 4, this is a bit of an underrated book per se. It's mixed at best. It has sort of a good start with Extremis, and then the very next story arc is not talked about at all. For good reason. It's just not that interesting at all. That's simply what XQ program is. The Civil War 1 tie-in is basically, it's noteworthy for Death of Happy Hogan. Yep. They killed Happy Hogan, not two-parter. And then we have, like, roughly 3 story arcs for Iron Man Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. We have 3. We have The Initiative, we have Hunted, and Iron Hands. And that's it. That's all we get from issues 15 to 32. With, of course, a couple issues being tie-ins to World War Hulk. Yep. It's, I would say, good start, weak second arc. The tie-in was okay. A book gets a lot better once he becomes director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, the book becomes really good at that point. Yep, really good book, good artwork. Thought it was kind of odd, though, that the actual main writers who wrote the first story arc Initiative took a break for a couple of issues because of World War Hulk tie-in. Yeah, occasionally more writers would do this, where they have the tie-in for a crossover done by a different writer. But lucky enough, they actually included the trade. And then, of course, you have Hunted and with Iron Hands. So Iron Hands, they replaced the writers to do it more. Which, okay, nothing wrong with this writer, just why? Just kind of weird. And, of course, not printing the trade, which is actually published in a separate trade with an old Iron Man issue Iron Man 144. Let's see. This one was famous for... Let's see if I can find it here, because... Let's see. I think this was the first appearance of Rhodey. Not really sure. It seems like just a story where it is set during Vietnam. Oh yeah, it's probably how Rhodey first met Tony. Yeah, that's what this one is. Yeah, it's the probably the story of the Apocalypse Den. Mm-hmm. That's simply put what that is. That's what Iron 44 is. But yeah, that's particularly it for this particular review. Stay tuned later on today for my reviews for, well, I do probably their Comic Corner coming up and Doctor Who review. Okay, see you next video. Bye.